Have you ever noticed that sometimes silence feels more natural than speaking, even when nothing is wrong? At some point, you may find yourself becoming quieter, not because something is wrong, but because something inside you has quietly changed. Some thoughts go almost unnoticed, yet they quietly shape how we experience people. And one of those thoughts quietly came to mind. Why do some people find themselves becoming quieter even when nothing is wrong? Why does silence at times begin to feel more natural than small talk? In most social spaces, conversation is treated as a form of presence. Speaking becomes proof that someone is engaged. Silence, on the other hand, is often misunderstood. It can be seen as distance, disinterest, or emotional absence. Yet for some people, silence is not a withdrawal from the moment. It can be a sign that something inside has begun to change, not less present, but present in a different way. For many, this change does not happen suddenly. There's no clear moment when everything shifts. It begins quietly. Conversations that once felt natural start to feel unfamiliar, not uncomfortable, not unpleasant, just different. Words are still exchanged, smiles are still shared, but something inside is no longer fully there in the same way. This is often not about the people involved. It is about perception. As inner awareness deepens, attention begins to move beyond what is said, to how it is said, and sometimes to what is left unsaid. Subtle shifts in tone, small pauses in expression, the atmosphere surrounding a conversation. These details begin to change how the conversation feels. Patterns become easier to notice. Repetition becomes harder to ignore. And once you see it, it becomes difficult to unsee. Some conversations begin to feel tiring, not because of what is being said, but because of how much attention they quietly require. Following tone, expression, expectation, reading between words, holding the rhythm of the interaction, all of it adds up, not loudly, but steadily, until something inside begins to step back. Small talk in itself is not meaningless. It serves a purpose. It creates ease. It maintains social rhythm. It helps people feel connected in simple ways. But when someone begins to seek a deeper sense of meaning and interaction, these surface exchanges can start to feel less nourishing than before. At times, it is not the conversation itself that creates distance, but the quiet sense of taking part in something that no longer feels real. Silence in these moments can feel more honest than speaking out of habit, not because there's nothing to say, but because there is no longer a need to fill every space, not because conversations are empty, but because something deeper is being searched for. Sometimes silence isn't emptiness, it's clarity without noise. Depth changes how ordinary moments feel. What once felt sufficient may now feel incomplete, not wrong, not flawed, just no longer enough. In this space, silence often emerges as a natural response. Quiet moments allow thoughts to settle into clearer form. What feels overwhelming in noise becomes easier to understand in stillness, not as avoidance, not as hesitation, but as alignment. When words do not match the depth of inner experience, remaining quiet can feel more truthful than forcing expression. This kind of silence is not a rejection of connection. It is a way of staying in sync with what feels true inside. At some point, this quiet preference for silence is no longer confusing. It begins to feel like a natural way of being. To others, this may look like distance, but internally, it often feels like clarity. A quiet decision to engage only where presence feels real. As awareness grows, social rhythms begin to shift. Conversations that move quickly from one topic to another may feel harder to follow with the same enthusiasm. Moments of shared stillness may start to feel more meaningful than extended exchanges of words. This does not mean a person no longer values people. It means their way of relating has changed. They may speak less, but listen more, participate differently, but observe more deeply, present, but no longer trying to match every pace around them. And sometimes, this creates a quiet kind of loneliness, not the loneliness of being alone, but the feeling of being present without feeling fully met. Over time, however, this begins to change. Silence feels less like something to explain and more like something to live within. Connection does not disappear. It becomes more selective. Fewer conversations carry more meaning. Fewer interactions feel more genuine. And slowly, something becomes clear. The quieter you become, the more you begin to hear what was always there. Not everyone experiences social life in the same way. For some, expression flows through constant conversation. For others, presence is felt more fully in moments of quiet understanding. Silence, in this sense, is not the absence of engagement. It is another form of participation, a quieter one, a slower one, but often a more deliberate one. Some conversations fill the space around us. Silence at times fills the space within us. And sometimes that space is where we finally hear ourselves clearly. Learning to recognize this difference is not a movement away from life, but a deeper way of living through it. Maybe that's something worth noticing, because not every thought needs a solution. Sometimes, it only needs to be quietly noticed.